The small convenience store hummed with the low, constant buzz of fluorescent lights, the faint mechanical whirring of refrigeration units, and the occasional clatter of a soda can rolling across the linoleum floor. The afternoon sun filtered through the large front windows, casting warm, golden rectangles across the aisles lined with candy, chips, and bottled drinks. The store had that familiar, comforting scent, a mixture of sugar, plastic, and the faint metallic tang of coins, a smell that always seemed to promise small, personal victories for those who came with coins jingling in their pockets. A little girl stood near the back of the store, her short frame barely reaching the midpoint of the vending machine's glass display. She had a determined expression etched across her small face, her eyebrows drawn together in concentration, and her lips pressed into a line that said she meant business. Her fingers, sticky from the small handful of coins she had been saving all week, hovered over the buttons. She had a plan. Today was the day she would finally claim the candy she had been dreaming about. She had stared longingly at the rows of colorful wrappers for days, imagining the chocolate melting on her tongue, the gummy bears sticking to her fingers, the sticky, sweet sugar filling her mouth. The machine's bright LED numbers blinked at her, taunting her in a language only machines seemed to understand. With a deep breath that made her chest puff out slightly, she inserted a coin and pressed the button for the small packet of rainbow-colored gum she had been eyeing. The machine clanked, whirred, and then, nothing, the candy did not drop. She pressed the button again, harder this time, another metallic clunk, another refusal. She tried a third time, pressing as hard as her little fingers would allow. The machine shuddered slightly but remained stubbornly locked, the candy taunting her with its stillness behind the glass. Her frustration bubbled up inside her, mixing with the small spark of indignation that only a child could feel when confronted with an inanimate obstacle. The little girl leaned back and gave the vending machine a solid smack with her tiny fist. It made a loud thump that echoed slightly in the store, catching the attention of a few nearby customers. A man in the snack aisle glanced up, raising his eyebrows in surprise, while a woman at the checkout smiled faintly, shaking her head in recognition of a struggle everyone had faced at some point in their lives. The little girl's small frame shook slightly with the force of her hit, her pigtails bouncing as she pressed her hands against the machine again and again, each slap louder than the last. Coins rattled inside the dispenser, but the stubborn candy refused to fall. She pressed her hands flat against the glass, shaking it with all the strength her small body could muster, and let out a frustrated squeal. The clattering of coins and the hum of the machine blended with her high-pitched exclamations, filling the store with an almost musical chaos. Every time the machine resisted, her determination grew stronger. She was not a child who gave up easily, and this machine had clearly underestimated her resolve. The store around her seemed to fade away as her focus narrowed entirely on the machine. She stomped her tiny feet, bounced on the balls of her toes, and hit the machine again, imagining herself as a mighty warrior taking on a giant. The older customers couldn't help but chuckle at the sight. A small girl with fierce determination facing off against a merciless, unyielding opponent of metal and glass. The store clerk, a young man wiping down the counter, watched with mild amusement, unsure whether to intervene or simply let the spectacle play out. He had seen machines jam before, but never quite like this, and certainly never with such relentless persistence. And then, something unexpected happened. With a sudden lurch, the vending machine quivered violently, almost toppling forward on its base. The little girl took a cautious step back, her eyes wide as the machine seemed to shake itself awake. Coins began to clatter loudly, spilling over the edges and tumbling onto the floor like a miniature waterfall of metal. They rolled in all directions, creating a cacophony of metallic jingles that echoed through the store. The girl gasped, her hands flying to her mouth in shock and delight as her eyes followed the coins cascading across the linoleum. She had not expected this outcome. No one had. Customers rushed closer, drawn by the commotion, their previous amusement replaced by astonishment. A man in a business suit bent down, scooping up coins as the little girl hopped from foot to foot, squealing with joy. Flares of laughter and excitement filled the air, blending with the sound of clattering coins. The store clerk abandoned his counter, kneeling to help collect the sudden windfall, all while marveling at the absurdity of the situation. As the coins rolled and clinked, the vending machine began to respond in yet another surprising way. Candy, previously trapped behind the glass, suddenly tumbled out in an unexpected deluge. Small chocolates, colorful gummies, and sugar-coated treats spilled from the slots, bouncing onto the floor and into the little girl's tiny hands. Her eyes sparkled, reflecting the rainbow of wrappers, and she laughed with unrestrained delight. The candy seemed to almost dance toward her, as if acknowledging her persistence and determination. Other customers joined in, helping to gather the scattered treats and coins. What had begun as a simple act of frustration had transformed into an impromptu celebration. People were laughing, the little girl was squealing, and the air was thick with joy and astonishment. The vending machine, which had seemed so impenetrable and mechanical, now appeared almost magical, as though it had been waiting for this exact moment of determination to reward the smallest hands with the greatest fortune. By the time the frenzy settled, the little girl was sitting on the floor amid a small pile of coins and candy, her face smeared with chocolate gummy residue and the wide grin of pure triumph. The store, which had moments ago been quiet and routine, now buzzed with excitement. People shared stories of their own childhood frustrations with vending machines, laughing as they recalled the familiar struggle, while the little girl's tiny victory became the focal point of admiration. The incident was small, almost trivial in the grand scheme of things, yet it felt monumental to everyone who witnessed it. A little girl, armed only with determination and a handful of coins, had taken on a machine and emerged victorious. The moment captured something universal: the power of persistence, the unexpected joy that can come from a simple act, and the magic that sometimes appears in the most ordinary of places. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the store, the little girl clutched her winnings and candy, still laughing and skipping in place. She looked up at the vending machine, now silent and still, as if it had returned to its normal, unyielding state. But for those who had witnessed the event, it would always be remembered as the day a small hand, a determined heart, and a simple act of frustration created a cascade of coins and candy that no one would ever forget.